My name is Grace Mitchell, and I'm 32 years old. The champagne flute trembled in my mother's hand when she saw him. 5 years ago, she'd convinced my boyfriend that my sister was the better choice. A nurse with stability, she'd said, not some freelancer playing with computers. Tonight, at my company's international launch, she'd arrived uninvited, ready to claim credit for my success. But when my husband stood to give his speech, her face drained of color. Before I continue, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. I'm curious where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now let me take you back to where it all began. Marcus and I met during our sophomore year at NYU. He was pre-med, I was studying graphic design, and we fell into each other like puzzle pieces finding their match. For 5 years, we built something I thought was unshakable. He'd study for his MCAT while I worked on freelance projects, my MacBook balanced on my knees in his tiny apartment. "You make everything beautiful," he used to say, watching me transform blank screens into living brands. My parents saw it differently. Every Sunday dinner at their Westchester home became a masterclass in comparison. Mom would adjust her Hermes bag, the orange one she bought to celebrate Lauren's nursing degree, and launch into her routine. "Lauren just got promoted to charge nurse," she'd announce, while Dad checked his Rolex, a habit when discussing serious matters. Such stability, such respect. I'd been freelancing for 3 years by then, building a client base that spanned from Silicon Valley startups to Manhattan boutiques. But to them, I was just playing on computers. Lauren would sit there, pristine in her scrubs even on weekends, absorbing the praise like a plant in sunlight. She was 4 years younger, but somehow decades ahead in their eyes. The golden child with the real career. "Grace is creative," Mom would concede, the word creative dropping from her lips like a consolation prize. "But in this economy, stability matters. Marcus deserves someone who can contribute equally to a household." The irony wasn't lost on me. My freelance income often exceeded Lauren's nursing salary, but 1099s didn't carry the same weight as W-2s in their world. I should have seen the storm coming when Marcus started nodding along to their speeches instead of squeezing my hand under the table. The campaign to separate us began subtly. A Michelin-starred dinner at Le Bernardin, supposedly to celebrate Dad's promotion to senior partner. Mom had orchestrated the seating perfectly, Lauren next to Marcus, me at the far end discussing artistic things with her book club friend. "Marcus, you must tell Lauren about your residency applications," Mom said, her voice carrying over the clink of crystal. "Lauren knows all the best hospitals, don't you, sweetheart?" Lauren leaned in, her Cartier watch catching the light. "Presbyterian has an excellent cardiology program. I could introduce you to the chief resident." I watched Marcus's eyes light up in a way they hadn't when I'd shown him my biggest contract yet, a complete rebrand for a tech startup. Suddenly, my achievements felt like watercolors in the rain. "Grace's little design business is sweet," Dad interjected, emphasizing little like a pat on a child's head. "But Lauren here, she's on track to be head nurse by 30, real career progression." "It's not little," I said quietly. "I just landed a $50,000 contract." Mom's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. "One contract isn't a career, darling. Marcus needs a partner who can provide consistent support. Medical school debt is no joke." Marcus had been quiet, cutting his Dover sole with surgical precision. Then he looked up. "Stability is important," he said slowly, not meeting my eyes. "Maybe your mom has a point about planning for the future." That night he was distant on the drive home. "Your family just wants what's best for us," he said when I tried to discuss it. "Maybe I should think more practically about our future." The word "our" was already starting to sound like "my" in his mouth. 3 days after that dinner, my phone rang at 7 a.m. "Harrison Associates, the law firm that had handled my grandfather's estate. "Miss Mitchell, we need to discuss some confidential matters regarding your inheritance." Mr. Harrison's voice was carefully neutral. "Can you come in today? Alone?" I sat in their Madison Avenue office, all mahogany and leather-bound books, as Mr. Harrison slid a folder across the desk. The Sterling Tech logo gleamed on the letterhead. "Your grandfather left very specific instructions," he began. "You've inherited 45% of Sterling Tech Corporation's shares. Current valuation, approximately $900 million. The room spun. Grandpa had been secretive about his work, always calling himself a simple engineer. Mom had complained about his modest estate when he passed. A small house, some bonds. "There are conditions," Mr. Harrison continued. "First, absolute confidentiality until you choose to reveal it. Second, the family harmony clause." He pointed to Section 7.3 of the trust document. "Any family member who demonstrates sustained hostility, manipulation, or undermining of another family member forfeits access to all trust benefits they're currently receiving." "Currently receiving?" I echoed. "Your parents have been drawing from a family trust, about $50 million over the years. They believe it's from general family investments. They don't know you're the primary beneficiary and can revoke access based on this clause." An email from Sterling Tech's board appeared on his laptop. "We await your instructions regarding your voting shares," it read, signed by 12 board members. "Why didn't Grandpa tell anyone?" Mr. Harrison's expression softened. "He wrote you a letter." The handwriting was shaky but clear. "My dear Grace, your parents never saw your light, too blinded by conventional success. This is your shield and sword. Use it when they try to dim you. Love, Grandpa." I left with the documents in a safety deposit box, and a secret that could change everything. But first, I needed to see if Marcus would choose me without knowing what I was worth. Mom's campaign escalated with strategic precision. Coincidental meetings became orchestrated invasions. Lauren suddenly needed rides to the hospital that passed Marcus's apartment. She'd appear at his study groups with homemade meals, playing the devoted caregiver. "I brought extra lasagna," she'd say, touching his shoulder. "You need proper nutrition during finals." Meanwhile, my freelance schedule, which Mom somehow always knew, became ammunition. "Oh, Grace is probably sleeping in again," she'd tell Marcus when I was actually pulling all-nighters for clients. "The freelance lifestyle, you know, so unpredictable." I discovered their group text by accident when Marcus left his phone unlocked. Mom had created family planning with Lauren and Marcus. No invitation extended to me. "Marcus deserves stability," Mom had written. "Lauren can offer that." "I just want him happy," Lauren replied, followed by heart emojis. Marcus's response made my stomach drop. "You're right. I need to think practically." When I confronted him, he got defensive. "They're just looking out for me. For us." "There is no us in that chat, Marcus. I'm not even included." He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I once found endearing. "Maybe that's the point, Grace. Maybe everyone sees something you don't. Lauren's got her life together. She knows what she wants. And I don't? You're talented, but talent doesn't pay mortgages. It doesn't fund kids' college. Your parents are right. I need someone stable." The word stable had become a weapon, and they all wielded it against me. That night, I opened Grandpa's letter again. "When they try to dim you," he'd written, "they weren't just trying anymore. They were succeeding. But I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. Not yet." I found them at Restoration Hardware, of all places. Marcus and Lauren, testing mattresses together like a married couple, her hand on his chest as they laughed at something the sales associate said. My coffee cup shattered on the sidewalk. 3 weeks of needing space to think, and he was furniture shopping with my sister. I walked in, my footsteps echoing on the polished concrete. Lauren saw me first, her face cycling through surprise, guilt, and finally, defiance. "Grace," Marcus stood quickly like a caught teenager. "This isn't what it looks like." I kept my voice steady. "You're mattress shopping with my sister. It looks exactly like what it is." Lauren linked her arm through his, a move so bold it took my breath away. "We didn't plan this, Grace. Sometimes feelings just develop. Feelings, I repeated. Or did Mom's investment offer for your future clinic help those feelings along? Marcus's face darkened. That's not, your parents just want to help. Help you leave me for Lauren? How generous. You're being dramatic, Lauren said, examining a $4,000 price tag. Marcus needs a partner who understands his world. Medical professionals understand each other. We speak the same language. The language of stability? I asked. Marcus finally met my eyes. Yes, actually. Lauren doesn't gamble our future on the next design trend. She has a real career, with benefits, with growth potential. Your parents helped me see that. So this is it? 5 years, and you're choosing my sister because my parents convinced you I'm not enough? He looked at the floor. I'm choosing a future I can count on. Lauren makes sense. I pulled off the promise ring he'd given me 2 years ago, placed it on the nearest nightstand. Then I hope you're happy with sensible. As I walked out, I heard Lauren say, "She'll be fine. Grace always lands on her feet." If only they knew how high I was about to soar. The family meeting happened without me, but Aunt Patricia, always the gossip, couldn't resist calling me afterward. They sat in your mother's living room like they were planning a merger, she whispered over the phone. Your parents, Lauren and Marcus, even had champagne. Mom had given a speech, apparently, about how sometimes love needs guidance, and the right match isn't always the first match. Dad talked about investment potential, about the clinic he'd help Marcus establish once he married someone suitable. Lauren wore your grandmother's pearl necklace, Patricia added, the one your mom said was lost. The betrayal kept compounding, interest on interest. They'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. Every family dinner, every concerned conversation about my unstable career, it had all been groundwork for this theft. Marcus moved in with Lauren the next week. Mom posted about it on Facebook. So blessed to watch true love bloom. Sometimes God has different plans than we expect. The comments poured in. Such a beautiful couple. Lauren deserves this happiness. Perfect match. Not one person asked about me. In their narrative, I'd already been edited out, a minor character whose arc had ended. I made my decision that night, staring at the sterling tech documents. I wouldn't reveal anything yet. Let them have their victory lap. Let them think they'd won. I booked a one-way ticket to New York, sent a 2-line email to my clients about relocating, packed everything that mattered into 3 suitcases. The only goodbye I left was a note on my apartment door. Gone to find my stability. Mom would hate the ambiguity. She'd hate not knowing where I was, what I was doing. Good. Let her wonder if the daughter she'd dismissed might have been worth keeping. If you've ever felt like the black sheep in your family, you'll understand what comes next. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building something so undeniable that even your critics must acknowledge it. Like this video if you believe in second chances and new beginnings. Now, let me show you what 3 years of silence can create. 6 months later, they summoned me back for the engagement party. The invitation arrived at my sublet in Queens, gold embossed, Ritz-Carlton, black tie required. Inside, Mom's handwriting. Time to support your sister. I almost didn't go. But something, maybe Grandpa's voice in my head about facing battles head-on, made me put on my one good dress and show up. The ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and society people I'd grown up around. Mom held court near the champagne tower, her new Chanel suit announcing her triumph to everyone who'd listen. We're so proud of Lauren, she told Mrs. Vanderbilt, marrying a future cardiologist, and Grace is here too somewhere, still doing her little computer things. They called me up during speeches. Mom's idea, clearly. Public humiliation disguised as inclusion. Grace, come say something about your sister's happiness, she commanded into the microphone. 200 faces turned to watch me walk to the stage. Lauren stood there in a $10,000 dress, her ring catching the light, the ring Marcus had once shown me, saying he was saving for our future. I took the microphone. Lauren always gets what she wants, I said simply. And Marcus always chooses the safe path. They're perfect for each other. Mom's smile flickered. She grabbed the mic. What Grace means is that some people are meant to support, and others to shine. Lauren has always been our shining star. A head nurse at Presbyterian marrying a doctor, every parent's dream. The crowd applauded. I stood there, invisible despite being on stage. Of course, Mom continued. Grace is moving on to… What was it, dear? Still freelancing? I'm building something, I said quietly. Building, Mom repeated with a laugh. Well, we all need our hobbies. But tonight is about real achievement, to Lauren and Marcus. As I left the stage, one person didn't applaud, a man in a Tom Ford suit near the back, watching everything with calculating eyes. I found refuge on the terrace, Manhattan glittering below like promises waiting to be claimed. The January air bit through my dress, but it felt cleaner than the suffocating perfection inside. Quite a performance, a voice said behind me. The man in the Tom Ford suit stepped out, holding 2 glasses of champagne. Up close, his eyes held an intelligence that seemed to catalog everything. Which performance, Boaz? I asked. My family's or mine? Both, I suppose. He handed me a glass. Though yours showed more restraint. I'm Alexander, by the way. Grace, the family disappointment. Is that what you are? He leaned against the railing. I saw someone maintaining dignity while being publicly diminished. That takes strength. Before I could respond, Lauren appeared. Grace, you're needed for photos. Mom insists. Alexander watched the interaction, saying nothing. As I turned to leave, he handed me a business card. Just his name and a number, nothing else. In case you ever want to discuss that something you're building, he said. The rest of the night was orchestrated torture. Photos where I was positioned at the edges, easily cropped out. Toasts where my absence from Lauren's future was celebrated. Marcus avoided my eyes entirely, Lauren's hand possessively on his arm. During the father-daughter dance, Dad dancing with Lauren while I sat alone, Mom appeared beside me. You could have had this, she whispered, if you'd chosen stability over dreams. I chose myself, I replied. And look where that got you, alone at your sister's engagement while she marries your ex-boyfriend. Was your pride worth it? I left without saying goodbye, Alexander's card in my pocket. At the parking garage, I sat in my Honda Civic between a Bentley and a Maserati, and finally let myself cry. Tomorrow, I'd disappear completely. Tonight, I mourned the family I'd never really had. New York swallowed me whole, and I let it. My studio in Astoria was a far cry from the Westchester suburb I'd left behind, 500 square feet with a radiator that clanged like a ghost in chains. But it was mine. I threw myself into work with desperate focus. 18-hour days became normal. Coffee at 5 a.m., designs until midnight, client calls in between. My portfolio grew thick with brands I was building from nothing, like myself. The freelance world didn't care about my family name or my sister's perfect life. They cared about deliverables, creativity, conversions. My clients multiplied. A boutique in Soho, a tech startup in Brooklyn, a restaurant group expanding nationally. 6 months in, I had to turn down projects. My bank account, once gasping, began to breathe steadily, then deeply. I ignored every call from home. Mom left voicemails that progressed from irritated to angry to wounded. You missed Lauren's bridal shower. The wedding venue needs final numbers. This silent treatment is childish, Grace. I liquidated a tiny fraction of my Sterling Tech shares, just enough to upgrade my equipment and rent a proper office space in Long Island City. The lawyers handled it quietly, the money appearing like magic in accounts my family knew nothing about. My neighbors thought I was a workaholic hermit. The bodega owner knew my order by heart: black coffee, protein bar, whatever fruit wasn't bruised. I lived on autopilot, building my empire 1 pixel at a time. But late at night, When the city hummed outside my window, I'd think about that man from the engagement party, Alexander. His card lived in my wallet, edges soft from handling. Sometimes I'd dial 6 digits of his number before hanging up. I wasn't ready to trust anyone yet. First, I had to become someone who couldn't be dismissed. I met Alexander again at a design conference in Midtown, 8 months after the engagement party. I was presenting on brand evolution to a room of executives when I saw him in the third row, taking notes like a student. "Grace Mitchell," he said afterward, approaching through the crowd. The family disappointment who just had Fortune 500 CEOs frantically taking photos of her slides. "Alexander," I replied. "The mysterious man who hands out cards with no company name." "I invest," he said simply, "in people and ideas worth believing in. Coffee?" We walked to a quiet cafe on 47th Street. He knew the owner, who gave us a corner table without asking. "Your presentation was brilliant," he said, "but you underpriced your value proposition by at least 40%. How would you know my pricing?" "I've been following your work. Your rebrand for Henley Hotels increased their bookings by 35% in 3 months. Yet you charge them half what McKinsey would have for lesser results." "You've been researching me?" He smiled. "I research all my potential investments. Though with you, it's more than business." "More?" "I was at that engagement party for a reason. The Ritz-Carlton is one of my portfolio companies. I watched your family try to break you, and you refused to break. That intrigued me. And now? Now I'm watching you build something remarkable while still undervaluing yourself. It's frustrating." Over the next 2 months, coffee became a weekly ritual. He never pushed, never asked about my family. We talked about business, design, the future. He had a way of seeing 3 moves ahead that reminded me of someone. "You think like my grandfather," I told him one afternoon. "Samuel Mitchell was a visionary," he said casually. I froze. "You knew my grandfather?" Alexander studied his coffee. "Sterling Tech is a remarkable company. Your grandfather built something special. He knew. Somehow, he knew everything. And he was waiting for me to trust him with the truth." Lauren's wedding invitation arrived wrapped in gilt and expensive paper. Embossed roses, letterpress printing, a venue I recognized, the Sterling Tech Foundation's private estate in the Hamptons. The irony was almost poetic. She was getting married at a property my inheritance funded, and she didn't even know it. Mom's note was tucked inside. "Whatever happened between us, family stands together. Lauren needs her sister there. Don't let your pride ruin her day." My pride. As if I was the one who'd orchestrated the theft of a 5-year relationship. The text started immediately. "Dad, your mother is making herself sick over this. Come home. Lauren, I know things are weird, but you're my maid of honor, always have been in my head. Even Marcus. Grace, please, we all want you there. We can be adults about this." Adults. He meant I should smile while they celebrated their betrayal on property my money maintained. Alexander found me staring at the invitation during our coffee meeting. "The Sterling Estate," he noted. "Beautiful venue. The foundation does wonderful work. My family has no idea the foundation exists because of my grandfather. But you do." He leaned back. "The question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge?" "Nothing. I'm not going." "You could go and say nothing. Or—" He paused. "You could go and say everything." "With what proof? They'd call me delusional." He pulled out his phone, showed me an email. "The foundation board meets quarterly. I happen to know they keep meticulous records about their benefactors. Your name is on every document." "You're on the board?" "I'm many things, Grace, including someone who believes you deserve to be seen for who you really are." The invitation stared up at me. Lauren's wedding date circled in gold. 3 months away. 3 months to decide if I'd stay invisible or finally step into the light. Everything changed with one email. "Miss Mitchell, Tesla's design team would like to discuss a comprehensive rebrand for our charging station network. Budget $2.5 million. I read it 6 times before believing it. Alexander was sitting across from me at our usual cafe, watching my face. "This is you," I said. "This is them recognizing talent. I may have mentioned your work to someone who mentioned it to someone else, but they wouldn't care if you weren't exceptional." The contract negotiations took 3 weeks. I hired my first employees, leased a real office in Tribeca. My company, Meridian Design, suddenly felt less like a dream and more like destiny. The night I signed the Tesla contract, Alexander took me to dinner at 11 Madison Park. "To celebrate," he said, then paused. "And to ask you something." My heart stuttered. We'd been dancing around something deeper than business for months. "Marry me," he said simply. "Not because of Tesla or success or anything except that I've fallen completely in love with your resilience, your talent, and the way you refuse to dim your light for anyone." He opened a Cartier box. The ring was perfect, elegant, understated, nothing like the gaudy monster Marcus had given Lauren. "I should tell you something first," I said. "About my grandfather, about Sterling Tech." "I know," he interrupted gently. "I've known since before we met. Samuel Mitchell was my mentor. He told me about you, about the inheritance, about why he structured it the way he did. He asked me to look out for you, but I never expected to fall in love with you." "You've known this whole time?" "I wanted you to trust me enough to tell me yourself. And I wanted you to know I loved you without the money, without Sterling Tech, without any of it." I said yes in the middle of the restaurant, not caring who watched. We married 2 weeks later at City Hall, just us and 2 witnesses from the street. Simple, real, ours. My family still didn't know I existed in New York. They definitely didn't know I'd just become Mrs. Alexander Sterling. "Your grandfather was a genius," Alexander said, spreading documents across our dining table. We'd been married a month, and it was time I understood everything. Sterling Tech Corporation, founded 1987 by Samuel Mitchell and my father, Thomas Sterling. Your grandfather owned 45%, my father owned 45%, and 10% went to early investors. Your father? Died when I was 15. Left everything to me. I've been CEO since I was 25. He pulled out a folder marked Confidential. Your grandfather structured your inheritance brilliantly. You own 45% of a company worth $2 billion. But more importantly, look at Section 7.3. The Family Harmony Clause. I'd read it before, but Alexander pointed to a subsection I'd missed. "Any funds distributed to family members from secondary trusts are contingent upon the primary beneficiary's discretion," he read. "Your parents have been living off a $50 million trust that you control. They think it's independent family money." $50 million? Your mother's shopping habits, your father's investments, Lauren's medical school loans paid in full, Marcus's clinic seed money, all from a trust you can freeze with one letter. He showed me bank statements. The family trust had paid for everything: the Westchester house, the cars, Lauren's wedding venue, even Mom's Hermes collection. Your grandfather set it up so they'd be comfortable but never know they were dependent on your goodwill. He wanted you to have power when you needed it. Why didn't the lawyers tell me this? You weren't ready. You needed to build your own success first. But now, he pulled up an email from the Sterling Tech Board. They want to meet you, the mysterious Mitchell heir, my wife. Do we tell my family? That's your choice. But Grace, they've been living off your inheritance while telling you that you're worthless. The wedding is in 6 weeks. If you wanted to correct that narrative. I thought about Grandpa's letter. When they tried to dim you, they hadn't just tried, they'd nearly succeeded. Not yet, I decided. Let them have their wedding, then we'll see. The forensic accountant Alexander hired was thorough. Every dollar from the family trust, traced and documented. Your parents have withdrawn $50 million over 15 years, she reported. But here's what's interesting. They've told everyone, including the IRS, that this money came from your father's investments. They lied. They believed the lie. The trust was structured to seem like returns from a portfolio your father managed. But look, she showed me transaction records. Every withdrawal coincides with family events. Lauren's college, $200,000. Her med school, $350,000. Your parents' house renovation, $2 million. And for me? She pulled up another screen. They withdrew $15,000 for your college, nothing else, ever. The disparity was staggering. Lauren's wedding alone was costing $500,000. From my trust. The Sterling Tech Hospital wing where she worked, my grandfather's donation, which got her the job. There's more, the accountant continued. Marcus's clinic received a $3 million grant from the Sterling Tech Foundation. Your mother is listed as the referring party. She's been using your family's connection to Sterling Tech without knowing you own it. Alexander watched my face carefully. They've built their entire lifestyle on your inheritance while telling you you're not stable enough to succeed. Can we stop it? One letter to the trustees. The harmony clause is clear. Family members who undermine or emotionally abuse the primary beneficiary lose access. We have 5 years of evidence. I thought about every dinner where they'd called me unstable. Every time they'd said Lauren deserved better. Every moment they'd made me feel worthless while spending my money. Not yet, I said. I want them to see what they threw away first. Then I want it to be public. Alexander smiled. Your company launch is in 8 weeks, right after Lauren's wedding. Perfect timing, I agreed. Let them have their last party on my dime. Meridian Design's international launch would be everything Lauren's wedding wasn't. Earned, not inherited. I hired the best event planner in Manhattan, but every decision was mine. The Plaza Hotel, I told her. The grand ballroom, 500 guests. That's ambitious for a design firm launch. We're announcing partnerships with Tesla, Henley Hotels, and 3 Fortune 500 companies. Plus, my husband owns Sterling Tech. We can afford ambitious. She didn't know my maiden name. To her, I was just Grace Sterling, Alexander's wife, the designer who'd seemingly appeared from nowhere. Alexander helped craft the guest list. Tech CEOs, venture capitalists, media moguls, and strategically placed Sterling Tech board members who'd been asking about the Mitchell heir for years. Don't send my family an invitation, I said. They'll find out anyway. How? Mom has Google alerts for anything involving Sterling Tech. When the press release goes out about the CEO's wife launching her company, she'll see it. We planned every detail. The presentation screens would show my company's growth, but I kept one slide hidden, a family tree showing my grandfather's ownership of Sterling Tech, my inheritance, and exactly where the family money originated. You're going to destroy them, Alexander said one night, finding me rehearsing my speech. No, I'm going to tell the truth. If the truth destroys them, that's their choice. He pulled me close. Your grandfather would be proud. You think? He always said you had steel in your spine. Your family just kept trying to bend it. 3 days before Lauren's wedding, I had my lawyer prepare the documents. 1 letter to freeze the trust. 1 press release about my inheritance. 1 cease and desist for when they inevitably tried to claim credit for my success. Having second thoughts? Alexander asked, seeing me stare at the papers. No, I said. I'm just amazed it took me this long to realize I was never the failure in this story. Power isn't about revenge, it's about truth. When you've been dismissed and diminished, sometimes the universe conspires to balance the scales. If you're invested in seeing justice served with class and dignity, hit that subscribe button. What happens next changed 5 lives forever. They arrived 40 minutes into the launch, sweeping in like they owned the place. Mom wore new Valentino, my trust money, no doubt, with Lauren and Alexander McQueen and Marcus in Armani. Dad had his phone out, already taking photos. There she is, Mom's voice carried across the plaza's grand ballroom. My daughter, the CEO! 500 guests turned to watch them push through the crowd. The tech journalist perked up, sensing drama. Lauren reached me first, air kissing like we were best friends. Grace, you should have told us. Sterling Tech, really? We always knew you'd amount to something, Mom announced loudly, attracting a circle of listeners. We supported her from the beginning, you know. Family investment in her future. I stood perfectly still, champagne untouched. Alexander's hand found mine, steadying. Mrs. Mitchell? A reporter approached. You must be so proud of Grace's success. Oh, we are, Mom preened. We funded her start, you know. Family money. We always believed in her vision. The lie was so bold, so absolute, that I almost admired it. Marcus stepped forward, extending his hand to Alexander. You must be the husband. I'm Marcus, Grace's old friend. Her ex-boyfriend, Lauren corrected, linking her arm through his. But that's ancient history. We're all family now. Speaking of family, Dad interjected, spotting a Sterling Tech board member. We should discuss increasing our involvement with the company. As founding family members, we have ideas. Founding family? Alexander's voice was dangerously quiet. Well, yes, Mom said. The Mitchell connection to Sterling Tech goes back decades. The board member looked confused. I wasn't aware there were other Mitchell heirs. Oh, we're very involved, Mom lied smoothly. Behind the scenes, of course, humble investors. But now that Grace has made it public, we can be more open about our role. They were rewriting history in real time, claiming my inheritance, my success, my life as their creation. I caught Alexander's eye. He nodded toward the stage. It was time. Mom had gathered a proper audience by the time she really got going. 3 board members, 2 Wall Street Journal reporters, and a handful of venture capitalists stood listening to her fabricated history. Grace was always creative but unfocused, she explained with practiced concern. We had to guide her, invest in her. The freelance phase was concerning, but we never gave up. We knew she just needed the right support. Your support? One reporter asked, taking notes. Financial, emotional, strategic, Dad chimed in. We've been funding her work for years. Quietly, of course. We don't like to boast. Lauren had cornered the Tesla executives. Grace learned everything from watching me, she said. The discipline, the work ethic. I'm a head nurse at Presbyterian, the Sterling Tech wing, actually. Excellence runs in the family. Marcus was holding court with younger entrepreneurs. I knew Grace when she was just starting out. Gave her advice, connections. Sometimes people need that push, you know? They moved through my party like parasites, attaching themselves to my success, feeding off achievements they'd tried to prevent. We should get her a better table, Mom told an event coordinator. The family table is too far back. We're the guests of honor, really. I wasn't aware. Oh, Grace probably forgot to mention it. She's always been scattered that way. But don't worry, we're here now. We'll need 5 seats at the main table, the VIP section. The coordinator looked bewildered, searching for my name on her list. Meanwhile, Lauren had found the presentation screens showing Meridian's client list. Oh, how wonderful! Though really, she should add that this was a family effort. Mom, come see. They stood there, in my accomplishment, trying to paint themselves into a picture they'd tried to burn. Mr. Sterling, Dad approached Alexander with an extended hand and a salesman's smile. We should discuss Grace's future with Sterling Tech. As her father, I have some thoughts about her trajectory. Alexander's expression was carved from ice. Her trajectory? Well, yes. She'll need guidance. She's talented but impulsive, gets that from her mother's side. But with proper family oversight. Family oversight, Alexander repeated slowly, like he was tasting poison. Every word they spoke dug their grave deeper. They didn't know it yet, but the recording devices at every table were capturing everything. Evidence for what came next. I walked to the podium with the calm that comes from knowing exactly how a story ends. The room quieted, 500 faces turning toward the stage. Good evening, I began. Thank you all for joining Meridian Design's international launch. Before I discuss our future, I need to thank someone special. Mom preened in her commandeered VIP seat, ready to accept recognition. My husband, I continued. Alexander Sterling. Alexander stood from our table, the actual VIP table, and the spotlight found him. Gasps rippled through the crowd as people connected the dots. The Sterling Tech CEO, my husband. Mom's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. Alexander believed in me when my own family called me unstable, I said evenly. He saw potential where others saw disappointment. He invested in my dreams when others said I should give them up. Lauren grabbed Marcus's arm. Dad's phone clattered to the table. But Alexander wasn't the first Sterling to believe in a Mitchell, I continued. My grandfather, Samuel Mitchell, co-founded Sterling Tech with Alexander's father in 1987. The screens behind me lit up with incorporation documents, my grandfather's signature bold and clear. What many don't know is that my grandfather left very specific instructions about his legacy. I clicked to the next slide, the family tree, showing my 45% ownership. I inherited my grandfather's shares 3 years ago. I own 45% of Sterling Tech Corporation. The room erupted in whispers. Reporters typed frantically. Mom's face had gone from red to white to gray. I've been blessed, I said, voice carrying clearly, to build Meridian Design from nothing while knowing I had a safety net I never needed to use. My grandfather believed in earning success, not inheriting it. But, I paused, meeting my mother's eyes, he also believed in truth, in family harmony, in supporting each other rather than tearing each other down. The next slide appeared, section 7.3 of the trust, highlighted in yellow. So, tonight, I want to be very clear about who built Meridian Design. I did. With my work, my sleepless nights, my determination. Not with family money, not with parental guidance, and certainly not with the support of people who told me I'd never be enough. The silence was complete. Even the servers had stopped moving. There's something else you should know, I continued, clicking to the next slide. The trust fund statements filled the screen. $50 million in withdrawals over 15 years. My family has been living off a trust fund they didn't know I controlled. Every dollar they spent while calling me unstable came from my inheritance. The slide changed. Lauren's medical school payments, the house renovation, the cars, the vacations, every withdrawal itemized and dated. $500,000 for my sister's wedding tomorrow, $3 million for her husband's clinic, $350,000 for her medical degree, all from a trust fund established by my grandfather with me as the primary beneficiary. Mom stood up, shaking. Grace, this is inappropriate. Inappropriate? I let the word hang. Like announcing at my sister's engagement party that she deserved better than me? Like convincing my boyfriend of 5 years to leave me for her because she was more stable? The next slide showed email screenshots. Mom's messages to Marcus about choosing Lauren. The family group chat I was excluded from. The planning sessions for their relationship. But the most interesting part, I continued, is the harmony clause my grandfather included. Section 7.3, paragraph 4. Any family member who demonstrates sustained hostility, manipulation, or undermining of another family member forfeits access to all trust benefits. Alexander stood and walked to the podium, carrying a folder. As CEO of Sterling Tech and co-executor of the Mitchell Trust, I can confirm that effective immediately, the secondary family trust has been frozen pending review of Harmony Clause violations. You can't do this, Dad shouted. Actually, we can, Alexander replied calmly. The board approved it this morning. Mrs. Sterling provided extensive documentation of emotional abuse, financial manipulation, and deliberate undermining of her career and relationships. The screen changed one more time. A cease and desist letter, dated today. Any attempt to claim credit for Meridian Design's success, to access Sterling Tech resources, or to leverage the Mitchell name for financial gain will result in immediate legal action, I read. Lauren was crying. Marcus sat frozen. Mom gripped the table like she might faint. "The wedding tomorrow," Lauren whispered. "Everything's been paid." "From my trust fund," I confirmed. "Consider it my wedding gift, the last thing my money will ever buy you." Security approached their table. Not aggressively, just present, making it clear the show was over. The consequences were swift and public. Mom's phone buzzed first, American Express, declining her card at the Plaza gift shop where she'd been charging champagne to take home. "There must be a mistake," she told the clerk, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "The account's been frozen, ma'am," the clerk replied, checking his screen. "The primary account holder has restricted access." Lauren's phone rang next. Presbyterian Hospital's administrator, his voice carrying despite her lowered volume. "Miss Mitchell, we need to discuss your position. The Sterling Tech endowment that funds your department has been restructured. Your role is under review." Marcus received an email, his face draining as he read. The Sterling Tech Foundation's grant for his clinic, terminated effective immediately. $3 million, gone. He'd have to close within the month. "You vindictive—" Mom started toward the stage. Security stepped forward, but I raised my hand. Let her speak. Let everyone see who she really was. "We're your family," she screamed. "We raised you. We gave you everything." "You gave me nothing but doubt," I replied into the microphone. "Every success I've achieved, you tried to claim. Every failure you predicted, you tried to cause. Lauren's wedding is tomorrow. You're ruining her life." Lauren ruined her own life when she chose to steal what wasn't hers. The venue's paid through tomorrow. After that, you're on your own. Dad tried the businessman approach. "Grace, let's discuss this privately. There's been a misunderstanding." "The only misunderstanding," Alexander interjected, "was your family thinking you could emotionally abuse someone for years and still profit from their inheritance." The Wall Street Journal reporter raised her hand. "Mrs. Sterling, are you saying your family took credit for your success while actively undermining it?" "I'm saying," I responded carefully, "that sometimes the people who should support you most become your biggest obstacles, and sometimes the only way forward is to stop letting them hold you back." The board member Mom had been lying to earlier approached their table. "I think it's time you left," he said quietly, "before this becomes more embarrassing than it already is." They stood to leave, their designer clothes and expensive accessories suddenly looking like costumes in a play that had ended. They didn't leave quietly. Mom's manipulation tactics escalated from tears to threats in seconds. "I gave birth to you," she wailed, mascara streaming. "I sacrificed everything. Your father worked endless hours to provide for you." "To provide for Lauren," I corrected. "I have the receipts, literally." Lauren tried a different approach, pushing past security to reach the stage. "Grace, please, I'm your sister. We shared a room growing up. Remember when I was scared of thunderstorms and you'd tell me stories?" "I remember," I said quietly. "I also remember when you took my boyfriend and told me I should be happy because you deserved him more." "That was Mom's idea," she cried. "I didn't mean Marcus and I just what? Accidentally fell in love while furniture shopping? Accidentally planned a life together with my money?" Marcus finally found his voice. "Grace, I'm sorry. I was weak. Your parents convinced me you'd never be stable, never be successful. I was wrong." "You were opportunistic," Alexander corrected. "You traded a woman who loved you for the promise of a funded clinic. How's that working out?" Dad pulled out his phone, filming now. "This is coercion. Duress. We'll sue." "Please do." Alexander smiled coldly. "Discovery would be fascinating. Shall we discuss the tax implications of $50 million you claimed came from your investments but actually came from Grace's trust?" That shut him up. Tax fraud wasn't a road they wanted to travel. Mom made one last attempt, falling to her knees in front of the crowd. "Please, Grace, don't do this. We're family. Family forgives." "Family supports," I countered. "Family celebrates. Family doesn't sabotage. You taught me that family was conditional on success. But only Lauren's success, never mine." "The wedding guests are arriving in 12 hours, Lauren sobbed. What do I tell them? The truth, I suggested. That you built your happiness on your sister's heartbreak, and the foundation finally cracked. Security moved in, gently but firmly escorting them toward the exit. The entire ballroom watched in stunned silence as my family, the people who should have loved me most, were removed from my moment of triumph. "This isn't over," Mom shrieked as the doors closed. "You'll regret this. You'll come crawling back when you need us." But I wouldn't. We all knew I wouldn't. I'd built something they could never take credit for, never tear down, never diminish. I'd built myself. The lawyers moved efficiently. Within minutes of my family's exit, 3 separate legal teams converged on the situation. Sterling Tech's general counsel approached with documents. "Mrs. Sterling, the trust freeze is confirmed. They'll receive formal notice within the hour." My personal attorney added, "The cease and desist has been filed with the court. Any attempt to use your name, your company, or your inheritance in any capacity will trigger immediate legal action." The third lawyer, representing the Sterling Tech Foundation, was perhaps the most decisive. "Mr. Marcus Hayes's clinic grant has been terminated for misrepresentation. He claimed the Mitchell family connection without authorization. We're pursuing recovery of funds already distributed." Alexander handled the media with surgical precision. "Sterling Tech supports family values," he told the reporters. "But family means mutual respect and support, not exploitation and manipulation." The plaza's security chief approached. "Mrs. Sterling, we've documented everything. If you need witness statements for any legal proceedings, we have 17 staff members who observed the confrontation." "Thank you," I said, then turned to address the room one more time. "I apologize for the disruption," I announced. "This wasn't how I planned to launch Meridian Design, but perhaps it's fitting. My company was built on authenticity, on refusing to be something I'm not to please others. Tonight, you've seen the real story." The crowd erupted in applause. Not polite, obligatory clapping, but genuine support. Several investors approached Alexander about increasing their positions. 3 new clients signed contracts before the night ended. As the evening wound down, the Sterling Tech board member who'd witnessed Mom's lies pulled me aside. "Your grandfather would be proud," he said quietly. "He always said you had more strength than anyone realized. He structured that trust specifically to protect you from them. He knew? He knew everything. Why do you think he kept it secret? He wanted you to build your own success first, so when this moment came, no one could claim they made you." The papers would run the story for weeks. "Heiress exposes family's exploitation." "The Mitchell Trust Scandal." "From rejected to respected. Grace Sterling's rise." But I didn't care about the headlines. I cared that the truth was finally, irrevocably, out. I returned to the podium one last time, the room settling into attentive silence. "Meridian Design isn't about family drama or inheritance battles," I began. "It's about the belief that creativity and determination can transform industries. It's about the clients who trusted an unknown designer with their brands. It's about the team who worked 18-hour days to meet impossible deadlines." The screens behind me shifted to showcase our work: the Tesla charging stations, the Henley Hotel's rebrand, the Fortune 500 campaigns. Success isn't inherited, it's earned. It's built on sleepless nights and rejected proposals and getting up every time someone tells you you're not enough. I found Alexander's eyes in the crowd. "It's about finding people who see your potential when others only see your flaws, who invest in your dreams when others call them fantasies." My grandfather left me more than money. He left me the freedom to fail and succeed on my own terms. My husband gave me more than his name. He gave me the confidence to claim my own. The room was silent, hanging on every word. So tonight, I'm not celebrating revenge or vindication. I'm celebrating resilience. The resilience of everyone who's been told they're too unstable, too creative, too different to succeed. I raised my champagne glass. To the freelancers, the dreamers, the ones who choose uncertain paths. To the black sheep who become the wolves. To building something from nothing and refusing to let anyone claim they gave it to you. To Meridian Design, and to everyone who refuses to dim their light for anyone else's comfort. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Orders flooded in. Partnerships materialized. By morning, Meridian Design would be valued at $100 million. But more importantly, I'd finally said everything I needed to say. The truth had set us all free, just in very different ways. 6 months later, the landscape had completely changed. Lauren worked night shifts at a community clinic in Queens. The Presbyterian position evaporated with the Sterling Tech funding, her reputation tainted by the very public scandal. She'd kept Marcus's last name after the divorce. Yes, divorce. Without the clinic funding, without the lifestyle my trust had provided, their marriage lasted exactly 4 months after the wedding. Marcus declared bankruptcy. The clinic closed, investors fled, and medical school debt crushed him without the Sterling Tech grant. Last I heard, he was working at an urgent care center in New Jersey, 60 hours a week just to make loan payments. My parents sold the Westchester house in a fire sale, moving to a 2-bedroom apartment in Yonkers. Dad's reputation in financial circles was destroyed after the tax investigation revealed he'd been claiming false investment returns. Mom sold her Hermes collection on consignment, each bag a reminder of the life she'd built on my inheritance. Meanwhile, Meridian Design's valuation hit $100 million. We opened offices in London and Tokyo. Tesla expanded our contract to $10 million. I was featured on the Forbes 30 Under 40 list. But the part they didn't know, would never know, was that I'd quietly paid off their debts through anonymous third parties. Not because I forgave them, but because Grandpa wouldn't want them destitute. The apartment in Yonkers? I owned the building through a shell company, charging them 30% below market rent. Why? Alexander asked when he discovered the payments. Because I'm not them, I replied. I don't need their suffering to validate my success. I just needed them to stop defining it. We established the Samuel Mitchell Foundation for struggling artists and designers, kids whose families didn't believe in their dreams. First-year funding, $20 million from my Sterling Tech dividends. Lauren applied for assistance from the foundation. She didn't know I'd see the application, of course. Under family support, she'd written, none, estranged from successful sister. I approved it anonymously, not for her, but for the nurse who once told me stories during thunderstorms, before she learned to see me as competition instead of family. Success, I learned, isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. My family thought stability meant a traditional career, a predictable path, a safe choice. They never understood that real stability comes from believing in yourself when no one else does. From building something that can't be taken away, can't be claimed by others, can't be diminished by their doubts. Alexander and I had dinner with the Sterling Tech Board last week. One member asked if I regretted the public confrontation. I regret that it was necessary, I said. But boundaries aren't cruel. They're essential. My family spent years telling me I wasn't enough while living off my inheritance. That's not love. That's exploitation. We don't speak anymore. I don't know if Lauren still works nights or if Marcus found peace with his choices. I don't know if my parents blame me or themselves. I released them all, not with forgiveness but with finality. Some bridges once burned, light the way forward. Grandpa was right in his letter. They tried to dim my light, but what they never understood was that their darkness only made me burn brighter. Every insult became fuel. Every comparison became motivation. Every rejection became redirection towards something better. Blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. And sometimes the family you choose, a husband who sees your worth, mentors who believe in your vision, clients who trust your creativity, is worth more than the family you're born into. My name is Grace Sterling now. I built an empire from rejection. I found love in unexpected places. I learned that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success they can't claim, happiness they can't touch, and a life they can't diminish. And that's enough. More than enough. It's everything. Thank you for joining Grace's journey from rejection to recognition. If you've ever been underestimated by those who should support you most, remember, your worth isn't determined by others' opinions, but by your own persistence. Share your own story of overcoming family doubt in the comments. Like this video if you believe in setting healthy boundaries, and subscribe for more stories of quiet strength prevailing over loud criticism. What would you have done in Grace's position?